Hey everyone, Dratler44 here. So I hope you are all keeping well and safe today. So I'm going to be covering Bloodhounds pros and cons, giving the advantages and the disadvantages of this particular legend. Now it is for beginners and intermediate level. If you are a high level player, you're very likely to already know Bloodhound's strengths and his weaknesses. But meanwhile, before I get into it, do remember to never stop moving, never stop believing, and stay Apex. Now, one thing I will say with Bloodhound, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and cover it in sections, just to make it a little easier to follow, and I'll put timestamps in the description below as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the tracking side of things, then sort of into the scan, and then into the beast of the hunt. Now, they will meld together a little bit, because of course, you know, talking about one thing just solidly is quite hard at times, so I sort of will be trying to sort of give you exactly what the good and the downsides are. I think Bloodhound is a really solid legend now, and really fun to play. I think he's in a much better position than he previously was, so he has had a number of buffs, which of course is going to always help. Anyway, it's enough about the Mirage in the background. Let's get out of there. Let's talk about the Bloodhound. Right, okay, so Bloodhound, a big advantage with him is he's quite an easy to pick up legend. If you are a beginner or intermediate player, and you struggle in the sense of using some of the Legend's abilities, you haven't really played like games like Overwatch, you're new to the whole Battle Royale concept, then of course, you know, along with some of the other characters, Bloodhound is quite an easy character to kind of pick up and play straight away. He does depend maybe a little on playstyle. Like, I'm a very aggressive playstyle kind of person, which is why Bloodhound actually was my first ever legend that I used. I didn't have Mirage unlocked. You can't play him straight away unless you pay. So of course I went to Bloodhound. I thought he looked cool. I thought the animations was pretty sweet. He had the Raven, which looks really awesome, and I thought, yeah, you know, this legend looks pretty beastly, I'm going to use him. And I definitely found him to be really good. Now, his scan is, of course, very cool, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit. But one of the things is his tracking. Now, his tracking leaves footprints, and you can sort of see that there's like a death marker thing which you can click. The redder it is, the more recent the enemy's been there. It actually lasts for up to 90 seconds now, which it didn't when it originally came out. It lasted a lot less, so they buffed it to lasting 90 seconds, which is really good. So the whiter it goes, it means that the longer that the enemy hasn't been there, and the redder it is, it means the more recently. So of course, if you're looking for enemies to attack, the more sort of redder it is, the better. As you can sort of see on the zip line and all around here, you can see straight away that they were footprints. I can track easily that the person up here is on the roof, and of course I can then shoot them, kill them, they run away, but I can still track them, you see, and I can sort of tell that they've just jumped straight down here. They're going to try and hide, and I've got them. So no disadvantage with the tracking. It's really good. You can ping it to tell teammates if you're not on mic, and you can of course go from there. Now, something that I will then follow is the scan. Now, the scan has a massive range, and it can give you a lot of information. This would be you and of course your teammates, and you saw in the background there, I used this footage before, but it's so good in an example of showing up 7 enemies. You just think, wow, okay, now that doesn't happen very often, and it can really get you out of a sticky situation. You can tell teammates if you're on mic, or you can at least ping for enemies and hope that they listen if you're with randoms. The tracking, of course, is really good as well. You know, you can sort of, as you can see, kind of just tracking back and looking for those enemies, but the scan really plays a part of it. Now, as I say, one of the advantages of it is that enemies will struggle to escape you. The disadvantage with it is that sometimes it can mean that you can end up pushing enemies and you can get yourself killed. It doesn't always work in your favour. And as I say, I mean, one of the things that I learned when I first picked up Bloodhound is that, you know, it suited my style in regards to aggression and the way I like to play these kind of games. You know, I'm very first-person shootery. I love sort of these kind of games. I played Destiny and various other games, and it's nice to kind of be able to sort of push and kind of track and things like that. Now, one of the things is that sometimes, I mean, if it's a 1v1 situation like you're seeing in the background, of course, you know, you can run in and you know that you're confident in that you've got a very good chance of pretty much winning that fight, or a good chance of giving yourself the best advantage possible. The problem with Bloodhound is that you can sometimes push too hard, and of course you can run in and you can get yourself killed. It doesn't always work, unfortunately, but it's one of those things. It's like that with pretty much any legend, I guess. One of Bloodhound's main strengths is working with a well-coordinated team. Now, if you have a friend or a couple of friends on mic, you can coordinate pretty well, and you can give a lot of information as regards to where enemies are, depending on maybe their play styles and stuff. But you've definitely got a much more coordinated attacks. If you're all attacking at the same time, if you know that there are enemies down, like literally maybe 1 or 2 enemies are down and there's that one pushing for the revive, you know that you can scan and push as a team to clutching out those kills and wiping out those squads. It's a huge advantage in that regard. You've got the tracking, you don't need to ping it, of course, which is nice, but of course if you're with randoms, the downside is that you don't always know what they're going to do and whether they're going to push with you. And that's the shame. Sometimes you also get randoms pushing by themselves. You know, if you get sometimes like a Bloodhound player who isn't very knowledgeable in the character, often they will think that they are invincible, and they will of course you know, try and take out everyone and then die, and it can leave you then a man down. So there are definitely some good points and bad. I mean, the scan is probably one of the biggest things. I mean, that got buffed so much. It used to be a very lesser range, shall we say. I think it was about 2 tiles originally, and also as well, information wise, it didn't even give you it in real time. It just told you that they were there once. So they've changed it a lot in regards to that. It now tells you know, you and of course your opposition exactly what's happening, which is great. Sometimes the scan doesn't work in Beast of the Hunt or in you know, like a sort of like the normal mode. Sometimes you can't see it. I'm not sure if that is a bug necessarily, so I'm kind of hoping that they will change that. But it is again a really useful and important thing for the intel. So I mean, as regards to the tracking and the scan, I would say his kit is very good. And you know, disadvantage with the scan, I think the biggest thing is that it does tell people that of course that you're around. Enemies will catch a sort of like a message saying that a sonar scan was detected, and that makes it a little harder to catch people by surprise. But it also does give you the intel to kind of tell you exactly how many enemies you're going to be likely encountering. So there are fors and against with it. It's not as bad as it was. I mean, regarding how it used to be, the scan used to be very much more wider range. So I do think that there is definitely some nice things. The cooldown being reduced from 35 seconds now to 25 means that you can scan a lot as long as you're spamming that L1 button as much as you feel you need to. Then of course it is a very useful thing to maybe tell you that there are enemies around somewhere in the vicinity. Now you can sort of see there, I can sort of track exactly where he's shooting from, able to knock him down and go from there, you know. So there are lots of advantages in that regard. The major cons with the character, and this is just because of the way he is, and it's with it the same with a lot of legends. This isn't just unique to Bloodhound. He has no get out of jail free card. Now, what I call a get out of jail free card is that if you are in a bad situation and you need to try and get the hell out, unfortunately, unlike say Wraith or even Mirage, Bangalore, certain characters like that, they have got no escape. Even Gibraltar's got the dome shield. Bloodhound has got nothing. Now you can activate Beast of the Hunt, but it has got a very slow animation, and if you need to use it really quickly, you haven't really got a lot of chance to kind of do that, and that is kind of a big thing. So if you are attacking, you have to commit and know that you're going to commit, and of course know when and why to attack, which takes learning. I got killed loads of times just by simply not knowing exactly what it was. So that is it regarding that part. Now he is a very aggressive legend, like I've said, and will not fit a passive playstyle. It can be big advantage in pushing with your team at the same time, but going alone can definitely get you killed. It can work very well with Bangalore's smoke, blinding enemies, and using, of course, Beast of the Hunt to take down the targets who can't see very well. Massive, massive advantage. It's basically like having a digital threat, you know, permanently. You can disorientate the enemies. If you're coordinated or you're with a Bangalore, it can really, really kill. Now, one of the things is that they changed it so that now the knockdowns, you get a 5 seconds extra for every knockdown or elimination that you get, which is pretty cool. You can use the scan to kind of tell where people are, and you can take them down pretty easily. Really, really, really effective. The downside is that the animation is very slow. It does work very well on a one-to-one basis, but the animation's slow, and of course it's very, very loud, which unfortunately alerts half the map. He can definitely, whilst in Beast of the Hunt, give players the impression that he's invincible, and he's not, unfortunately. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe they give him like a small damage reduction while he's in Beast of the Hunt. That would be really cool. I do find the visualization a little blurry. I don't know if that is just me, but I find it sometimes a little bit hard to see, which is a bit of a pain. Now, you can use Beast of the Hunt to get away. So a little bit like Wraith's new sort of ability for the L1. You have to know in advance that you want to use it, and of course, you know, that isn't always an ideal situation and may not always happen. One of the big sort of drawbacks, I suppose, with the legend is the downside of that if you're trying to hide while Beast of the Hunt, he's so loud you can also hear it. One thing they used to have, and I wish they'd bring back, is that when you were on a zipline, you could actually start up Beast of the Hunt, which cut out the complete animation, and of course, actually, he went straight into Beast of the Hunt mode with no noise as well. It was amazing, and I wish they'd bring that back. But, you know, if you haven't tried this legend, give him a try. He's an excellent and very fun legend to play. And I definitely would recommend him for anyone who wants to try a different legend within the game. So if you want to drop me any feedback about the video, I'm open for any comments, good or bad, as long as they're constructive. If you like the video, drop me a like, and if you want to subscribe for future content, that would be fantastic. But otherwise, remember to never stop moving, never stop believing, and stay Apex. But otherwise, that is it for me as regards to the pros and cons of Bloodhound. I hope you found it useful. You have a great rest of the day, and you take care, okay? Nice one. Cheers now. Bye.